The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Well, good morning or good afternoon, depending on which part of the country you are in today. We just want to welcome you and thank you for attending our webinar, Networking is a Contact Sport. I am Christy Gusick and one of the partners at Professional Services Marketing, and I would like to take a moment just to welcome you all again and to introduce my business partner, Terrie Wheeler, who will be presenting today's webinar. Before I do that, I just want to remind you all that this webinar is part of our new webinar series called Marketing Motivation. We have 4 more webinars scheduled throughout the rest of this year, which you will have an opportunity to sign up for if you'd like at the conclusion of today's webinar. Terrie Wheeler is today's presenter, and Terrie has many years of experience in professional services marketing. Terrie actually started her career in-house as a marketing director within 3 different law firms. She then launched her own business, Professional Services Marketing, about 17 years ago and has continued serving the professional services market from that time frame on. One of the things that's really unique about Terrie is that not only is she a professional to her clients, a marketing professional, but she also is a board member of the Lawyers Board of Professional Responsibility, and she is also on as a faculty member at 2 different Minnesota law schools where she specializes in teaching other attorneys on ethical marketing and social media strategies. Terrie is savvy not only in marketing individuals and firm marketing practices, but she's also created 2 virtual coaching websites, Market Your Law Practice and Market Your Advisory Practice. And Terrie, just as a personal note, Terrie's clients love working with her because she's so enthusiastic and encouraging and motivating to her clients in regard to networking and marketing yourself and your services. So without any further ado, I'm going to hand the presentation over to Terrie Wheeler.
Thank you, Christy, for that very nice introduction. Welcome, everyone. We're very happy that you're here. As you know, our goal is to provide some marketing motivation for you on this one sunny day that we've had in I don't know how many weeks and weeks, at least here in the Arctic tundra of Minnesota. So I'm very happy that you're here today and want to talk a little bit about what we're going to cover. This is really going to be focused on networking skills, giving you tips, ideas, strategies that you can walk away from this presentation with and start using today. So we're going to get into how to prepare for a networking meeting. What are some of the things that you should be thinking about before going to a networking event? What are some tips and strategies for you to use in order to feel successful and, most importantly, comfortable and confident when you're out doing your networking? As you may recall from our last program, there is an opportunity for you to engage in our webinar in 2 different ways. First of all, we have a live polling feature that we're going to launch here in a slide or so. So it will get you used to what you can do. It'll pop up, you just make your response, and then we'll share the results of how everyone feels about the various topics with the whole entire group. In addition, you have the option in your dashboard of asking questions. We encourage you to use that feature and pose some questions for us because we're going to leave about 5 minutes at the end to answer those questions. So please utilize that. If we have some time at the end, there's also a possibility of raising your hand. And what that means is I can unmute you, and you can actually ask the question over the phone to the group. So a lot of different ways that you can interact with us. And the one thing I want to mention is to please stay on the webinar after we conclude. I am going to then exit this software, and you will be directed to an evaluation. The reason I want you to know about the evaluation is because we're offering all kinds of free tools and resources that we think will be helpful and will completely reinforce what we've been talking about today with respect to networking. So first, we would like to launch our very first poll to get you into the swing of things here. And what I'd like to do is ask all of you to respond to this. What are your biggest networking challenges? And I identified a few of them, but if you would, Respond right now. Check as many as apply. Don't be bashful. Nobody will know it's you. We have another 20% of you, so please take some time and tell us what you think about networking. Okay, great. We're going to show it. I think the best part of this polling is that we can share the results with you, and in doing so, you can see how everybody else feels about the concept of networking. Most of you, I'm not at all surprised. This is great. This is really great and will help me direct my comments in this webinar, but not having enough time, feeling that you lack the contacts. This is a big one for professionals, feeling that you're an introvert, 33% of you, I can relate, and the whole concept of following up. So it's a good thing that we're going to talk about all of those different facets of networking today. So as we move into session one, we're going to talk, or section one, we're going to talk about a few networking basics. But first of all, I want to ask all of you, don't worry, you don't have to respond, but I want to ask you if this is how you really feel about networking. I think this is hilarious. Christy uses this in her presentations, and I just know so many people that I've coached over the years have that fight or flight response and choose rather to flee than to think about standing around in a room with people they don't know and schmooze, and these are the ways in which I hear my clients describe networking. And we're here today to really dispel that myth. My guess is that a lot of you think networking is all about selling yourself, doing the big song and dance about how great you are, but actually networking is going to be so much easier for you if you realize that you are really there to help other people. I tell my clients, take the pressure off of yourself. You're not there to sell yourself. You're there to learn more about the people. You can see we have a couple of definitions, but we want you to be able to learn more about the person that you're talking to. And again, not focus on selling, because if you're out networking and it gets too salesy, nobody likes that. You feel turned off when somebody does that to you, so we're certainly not going to give you advice where you would be doing that to others. It's not, remember, that networking is not about adding to your proverbial business card collection, but rather it's about meeting and connecting with people, genuine people that you have the opportunity to build relationships with. And yes, I actually went to a couple of different dictionaries and found what networking really means. I like the first one being the cultivation of productive relationships for business, and then the supportive system of sharing information and services among individual groups that have a common interest. One of the common themes that we're going to be addressing is how important it is to try and find that commonality with the person that you're talking to, that point at which you can really relate to them. And remember, networking is 90% having the attitude and mentality of how can I help others? What can I do to help you? Who could I introduce you to? But we're going to talk about some qualifying situations here, because we don't want you just meeting people and offering to introduce them to your best resources. But the tone of networking should be all about your view as someone who can help others. So now let's take a look at some of the basic networking principles. This is really a flow chart of what we recommend, Christy and I, in terms of some common denominators that are going to include asking great questions and really focusing on how you can help them. But the first step, and this is through sort of as the relationship progresses. So the first step in networking is really talking with someone new, asking those great questions. And I'm sure most of you know this, but when you are asking questions, you're in control of the conversation. So you don't have to worry about, what am I going to say? When do I have my opportunity to jump in and talk about what a great attorney, financial advisor, consultant I am? You're there to meet people and to ask great questions. Secondly, you want to watch their body language, and you also want to watch your own. How many times have you been networking with somebody who's sort of looking all over the room like, is there someone better here that I should be talking to? It's a turnoff, and it's uncomfortable for the person that you're speaking with, or I should say, if you're talking to someone who's doing that, you just don't feel like they're engaging. So when you talk with someone new, you want to watch their body language, and you want to make sure that they are engaged in the discussion and that you're interested in them. There's another issue that sometimes comes up, and that has to do with when you start talking with someone and you realize that, gosh, this person and I really don't have anything in common, but maybe they happen to be chatty. And those can be rather challenging situations to extricate yourself from, but there are ways in which you can do that, one of which is to say, I've really enjoyed meeting you, and I see my colleague over here that I have to go say hi to. There are ways to do it without being blatantly rude or looking around like, where is that better person? Now, this is really important. You have to first determine if you like them, if you connect with them, if you trust and respect them. It's really important to know that networking isn't just about blindly talking to people and offering to help them. You have to qualify them. You have to make sure that they are someone that you do want to meet. One way you can do this, if, for example, you're attending a trade or a professional association event, is to get there early and take a look at the name tags. They usually always lay the name tags out on a table. Take a look at those name tags and see who's going to be there that you might like to meet. So you can actually be targeted when you're at a networking event to reach out to people because you know they're going to be there. And only if they meet that quality control and they're truly someone that you feel not only that you could help, but they might also have relationships they could introduce you to, that's when you would take it to the next level and ask them out on a date. No, I'm kidding. You want to invite them for coffee. You want to say, let's meet for lunch or go to happy hour together. You don't do that with just every single person. So in other words, you have to make sure that there's someone who really is worthy. Everyone has limited time. You're all concerned. 60% of you are concerned about not having enough time. One way to maximize your time in networking is to make sure that you're truly following up with the A-level people that you're meeting. Then, after the event, go back to your office and follow up. This is the part where you do what you promised to do. How many times have you been at a networking event and somebody says to you, oh my goodness, Don, I'd like to introduce you to the president of this financial services company. You'd really get along and you would be they'd be a great client for you. Then y'all go back to your normal business as usual, and Terry never does that introduction to Don. Now, Don was really excited about that. And what's he going to do? It's uncomfortable to say, Terry, you were going to introduce me to this high-powered CEO that you know. So don't be that person. Make sure, and if you have to take someone's business card and write little notes to yourself on the back of it, do that. And remember, is this someone who sails? Is this someone who rides horses? Try to identify that commonality, not obviously when you're talking to them, but you need those prompts so that when you do get back to your office, you remember to do what you said you're going to do, because that positions you very well as someone that the other person truly wants to build a relationship with. And then finally, you need to stay in touch. You need to proactively stay in touch with your best relationships, because one thing that has happened to me, and I'm sure a few of you can relate to this, it's kind of frustrating. You have connections and contacts on LinkedIn and just through your other networks that you're involved in. And all of a sudden, out of the blue, someone that you haven't seen for 5 years wants to, quote unquote, network with you, which I usually then interpret, okay, they want something from me. What do they want from me? They're reaching out. They haven't reached out to me for a long time. So don't let that happen. It's really easy to fall out of touch with people because everyone is wondering, how do I find the time to do this networking stuff? And just this morning, in fact, I followed up with a colleague of mine because I wanted to chat with her about a client situation. And she called me back right away, and we realized, the two of us, and we're really good at networking and communicating, but we realized it had been a year since we had seen each other. And it's just so easy to take those relationships that you value and put them aside. So the point here is, when you've identified those that you want to have in your network because you value them, they've passed all of your litmus tests, don't forget about them. Figure out a way to stay in touch with them. Even something as simple as putting a reminder on your calendar for once a quarter to follow up with Don McNeil, because you have things that you want to chat with him about and you want to stay in touch with him because he's a valuable resource to you. So only when somebody, well, actually what we're going to do right now is we're going to move into some specific steps about how you can be more prepared for a networking meeting. And I want you to think about this, because many people, those of you, the 33% who said you're an introvert, I don't want you to have the misguided perception that everything we're talking about today is about getting in front of groups of people and schmoozing and introducing and asking questions. Some of the very best networking that you can do is actually one-on-one. So think about the fact that networking doesn't have to be in big groups. It can very easily and very effectively, and sometimes more effectively, be done one-on-one. The first thing that I want you to think about is, what do your very best clients and referral sources have in common? You need to step back and think about the best clients that you have and create a list. And you'll be surprised. It isn't just, well, they have lots of money and they have the ability to pay. What's going to be most important to you are some of the softer skills, like they really do respond back to me. They're great people. I enjoy being with them. They are someone that I would refer business to. We're going to talk about more about that. But this is important because you're not out there just randomly building relationships. You're truly trying to build a network that contains your very, very best contacts. So going through this process, now another way that you can go through the process of identifying your best referral sources and your best client types is to step back and say, what people or what clients have I worked with in the past few years that just did not turn out to be the right fit? What did they have in common? Chances are you're going to find things like, they wouldn't respond back to me. They were always second-guessing me. They were late in providing the data and information that I needed from them to be successful. They weren't really engaged. Those are the kinds of things. So turn those into a positive and say, that's what I want then out of my very, very best contacts and referral sources. And as we say to our clients, you don't have to know a lot of people. It's not a game of numbers. You just have to be connected and working with the right people. And that's one of the best ways to know who you're looking for, is to identify this, and then you'll find them, because you really cannot find who you are looking for if you haven't done an analysis like this. So now let's talk a little bit about continuing to target those that you might want to be networking with. First of all, it's not just about the individual person. In addition, it's about the type of client they are, the category of professional they are. Maybe in your business, it makes a lot of sense for you to be networking with with other lawyers, with CPAs, insurance agents. You can see the list of categories. The goal here is to make sure that the time you're spending networking is actually with people who can either hire you or highly refer you to the clients that you want to work with. Now, we have a rule that we are citing from a book that many of you have read. It's called Traction, and it's by a gentleman named Gino Wickman. And there's a rule of 4-2-1. I don't know, Jennifer, I think you're on the call and you're very familiar with this. The rule of 4-2-1 is that it generally takes 4 meetings to generate and create 2 quality leads that will lead to 1 client. Now, this is something to keep in mind because, again, you're going to have to put time and energy into this. It's not just about getting out there and schmoozing and seeing what happens. You'll have to engage yourself and set that expectation that this is what it's going to take to really be successful at networking. So once you have, as we've talked about, you've got some criteria now for your very best clients. You also know what type of clients and referral sources you're looking for. So now it's time to do something very important, and that's creating your elevator speech. Now, I want to stress that a lot of what we're talking about here this morning is not going to be the first time you've heard it. This is somewhat basic, but it bears repeating because people aren't out there doing this consistently. And if you're doing something consistently, if you're doing the right thing consistently, over time, you will be successful. One of the tools that you need in your arsenal, and you have to have it ready to go at any moment, is your elevator speech. Most of you know that it's really important to have an elevator speech, but sometimes people are concerned about, well, how do I really create a statement about who I am and what I do and the value I bring to my clients? How do I do that and really stress my unique points of difference? So if you're, for example, I want to give you a couple of examples because I think it's more than just saying develop a value-based statement that talks about how you really help and solve problems for your clients. We're talking about the difference between, hi, I'm Erin Hassler, and I am a financial advising recruiter or a financial advisor. My actual example is about being a financial advisor. So instead of saying, hi, I'm a financial advisor, you would include in your elevator speech the value. And what that might look like is, I work with families to help them preserve the wealth they've worked so hard to build. Now, that leads to interest. That leads to head nodding. That leads to, wow, tell me more. So do you just work with family businesses? Or it opens the door for further communication versus, I'm a financial advisor. Even if you identify the organization you work for, you need to give more of a benefits-focused, values-focused message. If you're an attorney and you say, well, I'm a business attorney and I work with XYZ law firm, people are like, oh, great, you know, I think I've heard of your firm, or they're sort of grasping for the next step. So make it a little bit easier for them by saying something like, I work with business owners to solve their problems that keep them up at night so that they let me worry about the legal issues and they go and focus on growing their business. It's different. Someone's going to cue into that difference because many attorneys will say, I'm an attorney with XYZ firm and here are my practice areas, but the statement that I just made about helping business owners solve the problems that keep them up at night and letting the lawyer worry about the legal issues so they can grow the business, that is demonstrating the value they bring to their clients. So before you actually start networking with someone, there are a few questions that you want to consider. You have a large pool. If you look at your LinkedIn contacts, if you look at the people that you just met at that association event last week, before you decide to take it to that next level, and remember, ask them out on a little date or a follow-up session, you want to think about these questions. These are the qualifying questions for you to determine if this is someone who's really worth your time to take it to the next level and to continue building the relationship. So you want to ask yourself questions like, how did I originally meet them again? Where's that business card where I took some notes on the back of it? Oh, that's right, they're into sailing. What do I really want to accomplish with this person? If I'm talking to someone, they're either a prospective client who could hire me and my firm, or they're a prospective referral source who can probably send great leads and clients my way. Again, how can I help them? That's the biggest thing that clients need to hear, or you need to remind yourself often, is that you're out there networking because you want to help other people. Now, obviously, when you're out there extending yourself to others, it does come back around, and they appreciate that, and it puts you in a very positive place when you're that person who goes back and does what you say you're going to do, and you open doors, and you create that LinkedIn introduction for them. They know that. They realize that. They appreciate it. And it's sad, but the reason they appreciate it is because so many people don't do that. These are just some of the questions. Biggest question of all that you need to think about as you're looking at your own referral sources and networking is this someone I would refer business to? And that's why it's important. As you all know, when you make a referral, you're sticking your neck out on the line and you're saying, I wholeheartedly endorse this person. I endorse them on a personal level. I endorse them professionally. I endorse the company they work for, and you should work with them. That's a big risk for a lot of professionals to take. So make sure that what you're doing, and Christy has great statistics on this in terms of how many times you have to connect with someone. I believe it's 4 before you actually feel comfortable enough to make a referral to them. So be that person and consider these questions as you're networking with people. Now we're going to launch another polling question. And I want you to be really honest when you answer this and tell us how comfortable you really are in a networking situation. So click now. This is good. Okay, not all of you are there. About a little over half of you have responded, so give us your response and we'll share the results with you. Right now, we're waiting for about 60 people to respond. That's how many people are on the webinar. So let's open the poll now and take a look at how you really feel about, and I know most of you have had a chance to respond, but now we're going to look at the results. So in terms of how comfortable you are, this is great. 21% of you are extremely comfortable. Well, that's good because hopefully one tidbit that you learned today is going to help you in your successful networking activities. Half of you rate yourself as very successful. About a third of you, well, 28%, say that you're not very, and that's good. I'm really happy that no one selected that I want to flee because I've talked to clients where literally the thought of going into a room of people they don't know just causes them to start sweating, and they have a severe anxiety reaction to being in a room like that. And it's lawyers and it's financial advisors. It's not just anybody. So highly educated people don't have to worry about not feeling comfortable in a networking situation. So now we're going to move into the section of the presentation/webinar today, and I'm going to share with you 7 tips that are going to make you a more effective networker. The first thing, we like to talk about this often because many times, as you know, there is a difference between sales and marketing. People know that theoretically. However, it's hard for them to define what it is. To this day, many attorneys, when I talk about marketing, will say, oh yeah, advertising. And so what I want to do right now is to share with you our interpretation of the difference between sales and marketing. So marketing is everything that happens before you have a real sales opportunity. So marketing is the branding and the messaging and the reputation and building your connections and meeting with your contacts. Sales is everything that happens after you have that opportunity to actually move forward with someone on a new client development basis. The other thing is that marketing and everything marketing is about is all about focus. It's focused on making the right statements. It's focused on the brand and the identity and the reputation of the firm and of you as an individual. And then sales is all about asking the right questions. It's not about being salesy or coming up with a pitch. Sales is about asking the right questions. Marketing without sales is way too expensive. You can throw money at marketing, but until you have a sales strategy, you're not going to go anywhere. Also, sales without marketing is too hard. And why is it hard? Because nobody's going to know who you are. They're going to say, I've never heard of your firm. I've never heard of that organization. So they work together, and it's just too difficult if you don't have if you don't have a strong marketing program, it's too difficult to just go out and do sales. Now, I know that for many of you professionals out there, sales is not even a word that you really like to hear, but it really is part of, and Christy mentioned that I teach law students, which is wonderful, at 2 of our local law schools, and one of the things that I ask them, and these are third-year law students in big, auditorium-style seating, and I'll ask them, how many of you, after you graduate from law school, plan to be salespeople? Let's see a show of hands. And they look at me with horror because they don't perceive that sales is going to be a part of their business. We do various presentations on sales, and I don't want to go down a path that is too far in that direction, but we really do want you to know the difference between sales and marketing, and that marketing is everything that's being done in the marketplace now to create your reputation so that when you do meet with someone, they know who you are and they want to move forward with you because of good marketing. So as we were saying before, ditch the pitch. Nobody should ever have to have a quote-unquote sales pitch, because networking is about building relationships and helping others. Now, this is something else that I want you to think about, because I know you'll agree. People like to buy. They may love to buy, but they hate to be sold to. I don't know how many of you have gone into an establishment to purchase something. This situation comes to mind for me. My husband and I were going to buy a new mattress set. So we walk into the original mattress factory. I shouldn't name names, but here's what happened. I had already made my decision. I knew the exact mattress that I wanted to buy because it had been highly referred to me by someone I trust. I went in wanting to make the sale, purchase it, and have it shipped to my house. The salesperson started talking about all of the bringing me back, showing me the cuts of different mattresses. Well, they were pitching me when, in fact, it was such a huge turnoff that I had to say, hold on here. I've already made my decision. I don't need to be sold. I just want the mattress in this case. So just know that you don't have to have a sales pitch. You want to focus in networking on building the relationship. You want that relationship to be fun and lively and friendly and without pressure, where you're asking the questions and controlling the conversation. So now, let's look at a few good questions. These are, again, in the slides, so make sure you request them. Nobody likes that question, and I tried to get around it. It's that whole, what do you do? Nobody likes that question, so I decided to put one in here that says, where do you work? How long have you been involved in this group? It's like going to a wedding. Oh, are you on the bride's side or the groom's side? You're just looking for some connection that you can start the conversation. Remember, when you're asking questions, you're controlling, and that's a good place to be so that you don't feel you're on the receiving end of uncomfortable silence. I like, how has the economy affected your business? A lot of businesses are bouncing back, others aren't. Remember the most important, well, what can I do to help you? This is only after you've determined they're a good person that you do want to help. We also put a link to a website called justsell.com, and it includes 30 open-ended questions. The last thing you want to do is start asking people questions that they can go, yes, no, yes. You want to ask the open-ended questions. So think about the things that you feel comfortable asking. Secondly, or I should say the fourth tip, is about sharing your passion that you have for your work. So make positive, productive, interesting posts on LinkedIn where you share your knowledge, you share your enthusiasm for what you do. You also share your personal interests. For example, my business partner, Christy, is a horseback person, a horseback riding person. And I can't tell you how many, it's at least 3 or 4 connections that Christy has made because someone has found that commonality. When they looked at Christy's LinkedIn profile, they saw that she was very into horses, and just that commonality alone was enough to spark a discussion and meeting. And in fact, one person was very interested in getting into riding lessons, and they saw that Christy knew, and this was someone we were marketing to. And so what did Christy do? She dove into finding the right resources for them, giving them a list of 4 to 6 places that she recommended that they could go take riding lessons. Now, that creates a very positive impression for someone because Christy actually did what she said she was going to do and connected this woman to the resources. People also want to know that you're more than just your job. They want to see that you have other interests. I was amazed to learn that one of the people that Christy and I were talking to the other day in financial services was actually a silver medal winner from the 1986, no, it was earlier than that, but he was an Olympic silver medalist from the Olympics gone by. And so that was really interesting. I don't think I even mentioned it, but I just thought that was cool. If it would have come up and I could have, I would have. So the next thing that you want to focus on is following up within 24 to 48 hours. Again, it's important because you don't want to be that person who says you'll introduce someone and you don't. I'm sure a lot of you have LinkedIn profiles. LinkedIn is a fabulous way for you to make those connections. Imagine you want to meet somebody, you go onto LinkedIn, you see that Terry Wheeler or Christy Gusick knows that person, and if you've built a relationship with us, that means that you're in our network and we like you, trust you, and respect you, and we will happily open that door. So when that person that you want to meet is you're positioned and presented to them through me, they're going to call you. They're going to follow up with you. They're going to meet you because they respect the person who's making the referral. So if you haven't already, and again, we do separate presentations on that as well, but go to LinkedIn and search for some of the higher search functions in the advanced search. Look for people's contacts. Look who you know that they have in common with you, so that you can always be looking at following up and following through with those contacts that you've met. All right, so remember that we talked a little bit about the frustration. We talked a little bit about the frustration of people calling you after 5 years, and this happens to me all the time, and want something. So don't be that person when you're following up and follow through. Also put them on your contact management program or an Outlook or however you track your contacts. Now, it's also important here on tip 6 to set goals and rewards for yourself. I know, this is funny. I had to laugh. I love the examples here. But think of it as what you're doing when you decide once again, if you're like me, that you're going to start working out. Okay, so you're going to start working out. You have to determine, how often am I going to work out? What is my goal for working out? 3 times a week, 4 times a week? You do the same thing with your networking opportunities. How do you want to accomplish this? What is it that you're going to do? In essence, how are you going to force yourself to be accountable to doing things that may put you a little bit out of your comfort zone, but you have to stay accountable? You need to then say, all right, I'm going to make a carrot for myself, and I'm going to hold out this reward, whether it's boots, beer, or anything else that will be that carrot for you. Come up with something and say, if I do what I'm promising myself I'll do, I'm going to reward myself. How are you going to reward yourself? It's kind of fun to think about all the fun things. Maybe it's a massage, who knows, a new bike, whatever it is. Think of how you're going to set those goals and the rewards that you're going to put in place for yourself. And remember, this is hard to do. This is not the easiest thing in the world to do. So many times our clients need to have a coach. They need to have a mentor. They need to have somebody who's going to be staring them down, keeping them honest, motivating them, being their sounding board, and kicking them into action to make sure that they do what their best intentions are. I'm convinced that professionals, they don't blow this stuff off because they don't want to do it. They probably put it off because there are other things that have come up, and these are client things, and these are A priorities. And one of the things I like to tell people is you don't want to wait to do networking and marketing until you have time, because chances are, if you do, you're probably out of time. If you wait until every single thing on your plate, your to-do list, your backlog is done, and now you have time to network and market, it's not the time to do it. It's about weaving marketing, weaving networking through the fabric of your practice so that it becomes second nature. I'm waiting for a document to print out. You know what? I'm going to call Christy, and I'm going to see if I can get a meeting with her on the calendar. You send a quick email. You've just done something that day that helps you market your practice. However, you need many times, and it doesn't have to be us. Yes, we do coaching. We would love to work with you, but it's more important that you have like a study buddy, right? That you have someone. People do this all the time when they're trying to stay motivated to lose weight or to work out. You have a workout buddy. Well, maybe it's someone in your firm who has a similar goal in terms of developing new business or expanding their base of networks and contacts. Then partner with them and hold each other accountable. But many times it's just challenging to hold yourself accountable, especially if it's 5:30 in the morning and it's raining and you don't want to get up and go work out with your trainer. It's important that you press through, that you power through, because that's really how you're going to generate the results. Now, another thing that a coach can do for you is to provide a number of tools that you need when you need them. One of the tools that we provide, anyone who attended our last webinar saw that we offer this this sales tracking tool that allows you, because when you're networking with people, the goal is you want that networking relationship to turn into a referral source or a client. And you need to stay on top of it, and you need to help those people work through your system of being a contact all the way through becoming a new client or referring business to you. So you need to track your opportunities. You need to look at where you are with this person. What's your timeline? What is the potential revenue? It's always nice when you're talking about sales goals to have a revenue goal in mind. That can be very motivating. And one of the ways we gauge how people are doing in their networking and their sales opportunities is to look at the prospective revenue that they have in their pipeline. You always want to have a significant amount, as much and more that you would like to generate next year. You need to put those numbers down because, again, that's motivating. Most importantly, whether it's sales or networking, you need to have a next step. You always want to have a next step with somebody. You meet somebody at a networking event, you have coffee with them, you follow up, you do what you say you're going to do. That's great, but don't let it end there. If it's someone who's important to you, it doesn't have to be next week or next month. You don't want to be a pest, but make sure that you have a next step with that individual and that it's something that's maybe really tied to what they do. If you know they're going on a big Caribbean cruise in February, well, follow up with them the end of February and ask them how was their cruise. Those types of personal connections are important. I just received a birthday card from one of my contacts, one of my clients, and I was so impressed because in their communication to me, and I haven't spoken with them for a little while, but in their communication, they actually put personal messages from each principal in the firm. They put a personal message to me and they signed it personally. Now that makes an impact. So also think about what you're doing and the impact it's going to have, and chances are if it's something that's a little harder or a little bit more of a pain for you to do, it's going to create that impact that you're looking for. Now at this stage, we would like to open it up to questions. We have a couple of additional minutes here, and I'm not seeing any questions coming up. I thought I asked a few of you to just ask questions. If nobody did, that's okay. I'm just kidding. So feel free to use your dashboard and submit a question to us. I'm just going to pause and let you think. Somebody asked about a book. Have you heard of the book Give and Take? And Lynn, based upon our conversation today, I can imagine that this is a book about networking, and then I can also imagine that this is a book that you might recommend. So I have not seen it or heard of it, but I'm definitely going to look it up and purchase it. It sounds like it would be right on point. So for everyone who's here, last time we did a webinar, I made a mistake, and I got off the call too late. And I don't want to do that this time. So I want to remind you that when we exit the webinar today, to stay on your computer so that you can complete the evaluation. One of the things that we have on our evaluation are the other webinars that we have scheduled in our Marketing Motivation series. So let's see here. So without further ado, then I will let you, oh, I guess we have one more question. Let's see here. This is a very good question from Sue, and Sue is asking, how do you select the networking events you should attend or that you do attend? The first thing is going back to that slide that we had about who are your very best clients, who are your very best contacts and referral sources, and where do they hang out? Is there a professional group or organization that is common? If it's a business organization or a business prospect that you have, it could potentially be the trade association that supports the business. Where you network should be a result of who you know and who you want to build a deeper relationship with. So don't necessarily look at an organization and say, oh, I could network there, so I'll go. You do have a number of organizations out there, whether it's Rotary or Chambers of Commerce. Those are a little bit more general, and you kind of take your chances when you go to events like that because you're not quite sure who's going to be there. But I would say start with your criteria for your very best clients and referral sources, and then figure out how to get in front of them in more of a networking way. Another question that we received says, what do you think of send out cards as a card system? A client perceived that I did this so automated and it didn't seem personalized. You know, it's funny you mentioned that because Christy and I were looking at the same thing. It's how can we do the high touch? How can we send out something really personal but then have a service to help us stay organized and do it? And I think I can tell you honestly that the card that I received from my colleagues and former clients was not something that they did through a service. So I agree, unless they can replicate your handwriting, which maybe there's a service out there. There used to be an organization, but they're not in business anymore, where you could sign up with them and they would send a gift out to your clients, whether it was on their birthday or a significant, if it's a real estate agent, they'd send you something after the first year of your closing. So while those businesses are out there, I think the best thing for you to do personally is to make sure that you do that on your own, that you put those notes together. If you have a practice that says, I want to personally wish my contacts a happy birthday, well then you go out and you get your birthday cards and you sit down on a Saturday for an hour and you handwrite in those birthday cards. You can schedule them out in advance, just like we schedule our social media posts on Hootsuite out in advance. You can do that, but generally speaking, there isn't an easy automated way to personalize the things that make the most impact when they come to you personalized. Handwritten notes, people are shocked now to get handwritten notes from professionals because they expect a quick one-line email, thank you for having lunch with me. So anything that you do that's a little bit harder, but it's going to be more personal, is well worth the effort. With that, I would like to thank all of you very much for attending the session. Stay on the line or stay on your computers and complete the evaluation so we can send free things to you. Have a wonderful day, and thank you again for taking your time this morning. Bye-bye.